What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and I'm here with Jonny, Reg, and Dreamcast Guy, who is our special guest for this week to talk about Blackout and a couple other things. Thank you very much for showing up, Dreamcast Guy. Appreciate it.
Man, happy to be here. I've been on a couple times, and every time is a blast. I'm super happy to be back.
Yeah, we always end up talking about the most random shit, but that's pretty much the way the podcast always goes.
Yep.
But this time in particular, we're going to talk a little bit about, or a lot about Blackout. In a moment here, I'll just give a thanks to all the patrons. Want to say thank you very much for coming to the stream. Thank you very much for watching this afterwards if you can't catch a stream live, which I totally get, and spreading the word. I definitely appreciate it. If you have any questions, post them in Twitch or in Discord. It's easier in Twitch because Jonny and Reg occasionally are checking that. We try to check Discord, but you have to click out of the current video to do that, which is why you don't see me doing that. So if you get a chance, hello, Sleeve. I see you in the chat. If you get a chance, feel free to post something in the Twitch, and we will try to answer. Additionally, we will get to Patron questions at the end of this video. Though I think there's one or two specifically for Dreamcast Guy as well. So we'll definitely try to get to those. Especially, I think I saw something from Takedown about Tomb Raider. So in the series there. So let's just jump in. Overall, what did you think about Blackout? What did you think? What did you enjoy, not enjoy about that title, Dreamcast Guy?
So obviously this new Call of Duty is very controversial since it's multiplayer only.
Right.
And the way they're trying to make up for that is the Blackout mode. And it really blows my mind. I'm very, very, very impressed with Blackout. And I feel like a big part of that, of the fact is like nobody's really just made a battle royale game with like $1 billion budget. So because of it, like it has so much detail. There's just basically like in the single big map, there's basically 20 small maps. There's just so many guns. There's so much, like today when I was playing it this morning, at one point, I got a grapple hook and a sniper rifle. I grapple hooked on the roof of a house, shot somebody off the top of a water tower, grapple hooked in the back window of a barn, punched somebody in the back of the head, took a rocket launcher, and then blew up a helicopter in 1 minute. It is battle royale in a way nobody else could do.
Do you feel that, again, and you sort of hinted at this, but the fact that because this is an early access and it's finally a AAA company, or you could even say AA if it was a AA company doing this, but it's somebody spending money up front, making the game ready for release date instead of early access?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 1,000,000% think that's what it is. It's that I think that smaller teams are putting more passion and more creative battle royales out there, like Realm Royale, which is just like a fantasy version of Fortnite. But this is literally just like, okay, can we buy success? And to a degree, they definitely pulled it off. It just has more polish than the genre has ever seen.
So one thing I did like is that with PUBG, we've joked about PUBG videos of like, especially when that fucker first came out, no one could shoot each other because it was just there were so many issues with latency and problems there. You played PS4 and Xbox One overall, or sorry, PS4 and Xbox One. Overall, you found the consoles to be doable. I mean, they were fine to you.
Yes, I only had a little bit of problems with latency in the zombies mode of PS4 and Call of Duty. For some reason,
interesting,
it would have these really weird crashes where the game wouldn't crash and your lobby would not crash. So you literally still hear your teammates talking, but you're all just standing there in the middle of a map. All the zombies are just frozen, and it'll just sit there for like 2 minutes, and everyone's just kind of like, what do we do? And then it kicks you back to the lobby. And I had that a couple times. So I feel like it could just be the fact that obviously there's probably 80 million players bombarding the server in a 12-hour period. I think that's probably what it is.
Would you say graphically, where would you put this? I mean, I don't think it's probably near WW2 just because of the way the game is, right? I mean, where would you put this graphically? Like it's good, but it's not crazy. I think that this is my own conspiracy theory, but a lot of times I think they make the graphics engine based around the single player. So if they're going to have something like Call of Duty Ghosts with lots of glorious foliage, then you're going to see those same cool plants in the multiplayer. Since this doesn't have a single player at all, it really feels like the maps, as interesting as they are, they're not glorious to look at. I mean, the graphics are fine. The frame rate is very steady. That's my main thing is frame rate in a first-person shooter is so important. So I think it's really, really solid, but it's not amazing. Reg or Johnny, did you get a chance to play this? At the beta?
No.
The
Not
beta,
even-
yes, I played the beta.
What'd you think of the beta, Reg?
Well, I played it on PC, and it ran absolutely fine. I was irritated, but I didn't play it for long, that I couldn't easily differentiate if a weapon on the floor was better than what I had equipped yet.
Okay,
Because
gotcha.
I'm very much used to that from other Battle Royale games. But that's mainly it. I thought the graphics looked fine. It ran absolutely stable. Yeah.
That is a huge issue. I do want to warn people about is there is a humongous learning curve. There are 30 different guns in Blackout, and so literally just by trial and error, there were so many times where I picked up something that looks like a giant machine gun, and you run into a fight, and it turns out to be a shotgun, and you didn't look at your little you didn't look what the ammo type was, so you run in and you're like, I'm gonna machine gun this guy. You're like, oh no, I'm trying to shoot. I just gave away my position, and 15 guys jump on your face. That happens a lot.
Or you're like me. I'm a Hoover vacuum. I'll pick up everything, and I'll have scopes for guns that I can't use. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I ran through that game, and anything on the ground, I'm like, well, doesn't it make sense? I want to pick it up so the other guy can't pick it up. Like if somebody's following me, so I'll just be like spamming the pickup button, and then look at my shit and be like, I have nothing right now. Like I think that's one of the things I was wondering about. When you drop in, are you still weaponless?
Yes.
And then do you feel that's a good plan?
Yes, I think what's really smart is that this is not 100 players, it's 88, and you would think that just 12 less people wouldn't be felt, but it really is. There were very few times where I died because I couldn't get a gun in time. A lot of times, as soon as I hit the ground running, I was able to find something. I will say, though, that one of the most smart choices on the console side is that quick equip system, which PUBG just could never figure out super well with the Xbox One. Like you always had to open up these 15 giant menus across your face and start dragging items around. Literally, if you were holding a gun in your hand and you look at an item on the ground and it is applicable, you can literally just tap a separate button. It's basically triangle to put in your bag or square to just instantly put on your gun. So there were a lot of times where I would literally be keeping a lookout and see a 2x scope on the ground, and I could just switch to my other gun, put it on there real quick, and go back to my sniper rifle or something. So it's very, very intuitive.
That's actually an intelligent way of doing things. I like that for sure.
It has a lot of small things like that I feel like it has the advantage. And a lot of times it reminds me of the iPhone, which is that the iPhone didn't invent anything new. We already had touchscreen technology. We already had MP3 players. We already had apps. We already had PDAs. Apple just glued it all together and pretended it was something new. I feel like Blackout does that, which is that it's not really inventing anything at all about Battle Royale. It's just gluing the best elements that everybody else did together.
I think it also speaks to, whether we want to admit it or not, it does speak to a company having the money to, to get the right assets graphically, let's say, and to do some testing and say, what's the right number of people, and to do all of this kind of stuff. I'm sure they tested it with handguns, let's say, when you landed. Everybody had a handgun, and we're like, okay, that doesn't work. Personally, I would say I played the beta. I wasn't necessarily in love with landing with nothing, but that's only because you'd land, and as you came down, you'd see that other motherfucker in the parachute aiming for the same building you're aiming for. And you're like, God damn it!
Yep.
And, if they get in that 1 second before you, but that's the name of the game. You can't really expect you can't really expect that not to happen in those titles. It's just, I know for some people that was a question. But then the other question I keep getting is about zombies, which it sounds like you did have some experience with. Overall,
Zombies is great. I actually think the new Zombies mode, I have never been a Zombies fan, mostly because I always thought that the previous Zombies maps in other CODs were they're so stale to me personally.
Yeah, they are. They're boxes, man. Yeah. This one, they're no longer boxes. They've actually decided to each one of them is set up a different way. One, you're basically on the Titanic, but instead of just hitting a normal iceberg, it's a cursed iceberg and zombies are jumping out. That one's great. The other one, the gladiatorial arena, the one you travel back in time. Right.
That one's like a giant cube almost. And by fighting your way to the different corners of it, there's gongs you can ring to summon these different gods, and then you have to fight off all the different gods and then sacrifice their heads to summon the devil. And it's just it's so bizarre that it was one of the things where I really finally had that feeling that I think a lot of Zombies fans had, where you're like, what the hell is going on? And so I like it. I will say the normal multiplayer, like the team deathmatch stuff, that's the one part of COD I think Black Ops 4 is boring as hell when it comes to just
right.
Like the shooting is so fun, but when you're just running around tiny maps, blasting each other over and over again, it almost seems like that's not the point anymore.
Yeah, when the time to kill is like 0.00001%. Just
Yeah,
bang,
yeah.
bang, bang. You're like, all right, I killed 180 people and died 4,000 times. What were we gonna say, Jim?
I had a question, if I may, for Dreamcast guy. Is there anything you get out of leveling up? Anything you carry onto your next match of Blackout? Maybe
No, not you.
No?
Just cosmetics. You get cosmetics.
Okay.
What's interesting though is the other two do have stuff. So obviously multiplayer always had the ability to level up and unlock more guns, and then by using a gun you get more like pieces to it to customize it. Zombies has that as well now to a heavy degree. So it'll make it where if I really like a pistol that shoots like shotgun bullets, like a weird a hand shotgun, you can actually go in there and tinker with it as you level up. And then when you find it naturally in the zombies mode, just by looting it, now whenever you pick it up, it'll have your customized options. So it's a way of like, you don't get a loadout in zombies mode, but you get more choice over what you're getting.
And they're fully voiced in zombies mode, right? Like it's mini campaigns.
Yes, very much so. There's no real cutscenes or anything. At least World War II, Call of Duty World War II last year at least had some cutscenes.
Yeah, right.
In there. This is just all the actual storyline as the characters talking to each other. Your character will constantly be saying funny stuff to himself, but when you're near other players, they actually start having whole conversations about like the history of a particular thing or how bad it's going to hurt to get your face bitten.
Did the Titanic? I mean, this sounds sort of stupid, but it matters to me. Did the Titanic tilt or anything? Because it had been like.
Yes, and it's very smashed up. And as you buy your way into the deeper parts of the level, there's like lifeboats that have been like flipped over onto the decks. You're literally like taking cover. A weird thing that screwed me up a lot is it seems like late in development, they disabled all climbing in zombies mode. So a lot of times there's stuff that you think that you're going to be able to jump onto because you could in any other mode and you can't. And there's definitely ledges where you can tell that like in late beta, there was a way to jump up and pull up this. And I think it was probably glitching out the zombies and creating pathing issues or something, because there's so many times where literally a ledge is like at exact jump height and you try and jump on it and you just bounce off. It's like, oh, that's a little bit weird.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see them doing that. I mean, especially if it's glitching the pathing on those zombies, which, to be brutally honest, you don't want them to be perfect anyway. I don't mind them fumbling around a bit, but I certainly don't want them caught up or not being able to get to you. One of the worst things in any game like that is where you find that magic spot. It's fun for about an hour.
The AI is just
where the AI is
yeah.
like stuck and you're like, yeah, and then about an hour later you're like, yeah, that just ruined the game. It just it takes all that difficulty out.
Especially because some of those zombie super bosses are so fun. And I'll be honest, there were times when I was like recording footage where we glitched it out and we discovered like there was like a bridge, like a rope bridge at one point, and the guy was down below and he couldn't understand that we were above him. He thought we were on the same level. So we all just like fired pistols straight down for 30 minutes until he fell over dead. And it's like, that was not bueno.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally I would take advantage of it that one time I found it. But then after that, I have a tendency to be like, no, guys, let's do it this way. And people are like, but we know it'll work. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the same. So overall, you said there was one big map with how many smaller maps technically in it?
So there are three big maps, but each of the maps you buy in different directions. And then, of course, there's one big Blackout map, and I think there's 15 standard multiplayer, like just shoot each other maps.
How did you feel the vehicles handled, or did you get a chance to drive around?
The vehicles are great. The vehicles, each one controls a little bit different. Like the cars drive like Halo vehicles, where you press like up on one stick, and then the direction you're facing is where you drive. They're super cartoonish in a good way, where like everything has like a 0 to 60 acceleration. So in my video, I have a lot of times where I'm just literally just like out zigzagging snipers at 1,000,000 miles an hour and stuff. It's real goofy. I think helicopters fly great, even though the helicopters are made out of paper mache. I feel like they stub their toe and they explode.
What would you say that most of that's the FPS being improved, and that's why they control better? Because like when you get into PUBG and you have 1 FPS, it's hard to drive pretty much anything. Do you think most of it's just because of that better frame rate overall?
I think the frame rate helps. I also think it's that game design has really changed a lot over the last 16 months, and a lot of developers are thinking more about impact, about making sure something feels like you're actually driving it or actually shooting it. So it's one of the things where it could be that illusion of maybe I feel like I'm going a million miles an hour because they put just the right ripple effect on the edge of the screen, and when you hit a rock, it rocks in a realistic way.
Yeah, that reminds me of Mad Max. Every time, because I liked Mad Max, I know a lot of people didn't, but when I was driving, the one thing I noticed is how many effects they were using to make you feel like you were going far faster than you were. Like if they removed those effects, you'd be like, wait a minute, this car's going like 12 miles an hour. It's like one of those little tricycles you pedaled as a kid, but boy, did it look fast. You were just like, yeah, man, and that's because the streamers on the edge of the screen were like trying to sort of trick you into it. What would you say is your favorite part? Like if somebody sat you down and was like, what caught your eye the most, or what was the most enjoyable part about Black Ops?
As somebody who's like obsessed with Battle Royale in general, I think I just really love the refinement of it. I feel like we're going to end up getting better Battle Royale in the future, but this was the first time somebody really walked in and said like, okay, the big kids are going to play. And so I really just love the fact that it has so much freaking just so much content packed into that map. It's basically on the giant Blackout course, they just randomly dropped a bunch of retro Call of Duty maps. Like here's the mansion from Modern Warfare 2, and here's a blown out science lab from Black Ops 1. It's like, okay, that's pretty freaking radical.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. What's the plan for expansion? Do you know? Is the plan to do another map or add more of the classic stuff into it?
I don't think they've said anything officially yet,
Gotcha.
but I get the feeling that they're probably going to try and make some crazy DLC for it. So when you started playing World War II last year, Call of Duty World War II last year, there was a very clear emphasis on microtransactions, on having loot crates and stuff. There is none of that here. I'm sure it's somewhere, but it's so hidden in the menus, I could not even find how to access it. So I feel like if they're going to monetize this the way they normally do, they're going to probably rush out some DLC. Like probably in the next few months, we're going to see a new Blackout map and probably 15 new maps for multiplayer and zombies.
And that'll be your microtransaction is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I mean, from what it sounds like, if this is your thing, then I think that probably is the best way that they can handle it, because it certainly does seem like the people I've talked to, I noticed, this is just me, but I noticed it wasn't being talked about much when I went on Twitter this morning and stuff. I was a little confused because nobody was even saying, oh, it's good. There was just no talking. I was like, oh, the joke was, oh, they're inside playing it. But that's never really, panned out. Even people who are inside a game will, if you know Takedown in our Discord, he's on Discord the entire time while he's playing a game, and he'll be like, this is awesome. Did you find that it felt a little, maybe not lackluster as a launch, but I don't know how to describe it, less impactful?
Hollow?
Yeah.
Yes. I will say definitely you feel the missing campaign. I definitely as soon as you go into it, the menus, everything about a game is normally built around the idea of okay, here's the story. This is going to explain the universe. This is why you're shooting stuff. And over here, as a fantastic dessert, there's your multiplayer. So when you go into it, the fact that it is straight into multiplayer, it is jarring. So even though the multiplayer is good, there is a sense that there was supposed to be a campaign at some point in development.
Yeah, and I think that was the story, right? They worked for a while on a single campaign, and then at some point decided not to continue with it. I think it's actually, it may not garner as many people, long term, whatever, but I actually think it's pretty cool because we get to see all that money, resources, not go into the single player, sort of see where it goes, and goes from there. Jonny, you gonna get this? Do you think?
The only scenario where I get this is in case we want to do an ACG in-house game where we all jump in and then it would be a blast. I'll be up for that, but I wouldn't really go into it alone. I think one of the things I wanted to ask, actually, now that I have the opportunity, is there a training mode or something where you can practice your aim? I know some of the other modes obviously help with that, but is there a dedicated sort of training thing you can do.
Yeah, there is. It's called a Specialist HQ.
Oh, okay.
And it's very strange. You basically go into it and it plays a cutscene like it would be the beginning of a campaign. It plays this like 5-minute video that's crazy HD and has great animation that shows like these billionaire people, and it sort of implies the fact that like all the people in the Call of Duty like maps are actually clones that are just infinitely forced to kill each other over and over again for this company or something. And then after that, it basically puts you in bot matches where everybody has like 1 IQ. So you get a lot of time to practice because they spend a lot of time staring at walls and just shooting their guns in the air and stuff. It's.
I just wish they made. I mean, yeah. Unreal. Well, of course, I'm old, but Unreal 1999. If they can do bots right, these fucking companies can do it right. And a bots and a nice aim, because one of the things is my aim is fine, but there are certain strategies I want to test. Whether it be, like you said, switching out to a weapon, picking up, using your special button, so you immediately put that that item on that gun, then switching back. Yeah, what if I want to figure the combo out for that, and I don't want to do it with some dude named Jackoff76 is shooting me in the face? So to me, I love the idea of bot matches. I wish they spent more resources on them. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen a lot of people within the Fortnite community talk about the fact that when Fortnite went from like really, really popular to the #1 game on the planet and everybody had to play it, was when they introduced Playground Mode, a option to play the game with essentially infinite bullets, infinite lives, no risk, with your friends, just building stuff. And people thought that was the time where it changed from here's a game, drop in, kill everybody you see, to practice, explore, try things out, experiment, figure out your style. And I think that like Call of Duty needs that. This one really needs something to kind of test out stuff more instead of just kill, you're dead. All right, shut the game off, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. It's funny, you were mentioning prior to the podcast, that you've done like Final Fantasy VII history videos. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's something that I'm always pushing to people. People will be like, well, I can't believe you like this game because it's a sequel, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, listen, bitch, people just bought their first Xbox yesterday. So we can't just pretend they don't exist. And so to me, a Call of Duty can release this way, but this is a hit to it, because what it does do is it does restrict those new people. Because I do have friends who are like, maybe they didn't want a Call of Duty, but they think an ACG group would be fun. But then they see or think that there's no ability to test their own, movement, how to get around, and they panic. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't pay $60 to panic. I want to pay $60 to enjoy myself. And I guess for me, I would tell people try the zombie mode, because that'll teach you, certainly teach you some modes. But I really do think a lot more shooters need, the Arma style training facility or something where it's like, here's some guns, go out, do, World War II did that as well, didn't they? Call of Duty World War II had the place where you could run around and shoot guns, just to give people
the HQ.
Yeah, just to give people an overall idea of what's going on. I think you got to meet people halfway, especially if you're trying to sell your game to a new audience, which is hopefully something like that gets at least a little bit more matured. Does anybody else have any questions in Twitch about the game? Feel free to ask them right now. Split screen, people ask me. Yes, there is split screen, but from what I understand, it's only on console. Did you get to try that out?
I didn't get a chance to try it out because both my poor roommates have to go to sleep early for work at 5 a.m. But from a lot of the stuff I watched, it definitely seems like it runs
smooth enough.
Fine. I think they definitely. I think it's one of the things where it definitely has the advantage of it's not having to calculate AI and both characters. Yeah. Instead, it's just a matter of like registering server data.
Yeah, I'm excited for the split screen. I mean, I don't even have any friends. I got one friend who's close enough to ever use it. And well, I got another one too. But the idea that it's there, I think is really positive. It allows people to sort of go out there and jump in. And especially if, like you said, you have roommates and they're all, I'd like to play. And it's just like, that's so cool that they can do that. And it's something that, thank God, like Halo's adding and some of these other companies are returning to. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like my roommates, they just basically, they watch my reviews, and anything I give like an 8.5 or above, they'll come down and just like, all right, we're just going to play this game for 15 hours today. And like that, we just did that for Divinity Original Sin 2 on Xbox One. We just literally played that for like 15 hours one day. And it was such a blast to just have that split screen couch co-op experience as you're strategically punching cops in the face. It's great.
You have a question. CKODY says, how's it going, everybody? Dreamcast guy, I saw your review and you said you were having a few drops in frames. Were you playing on PS4 or Pro?
Standard PS4, and it wasn't so much as frame drops, so much as it was like load delay, I would call it.
Gotcha.
Times where I'd land on the ground and it would take things. You would have like a building and it was 99% loaded, but then while you were there, all of a sudden, like you'd see the countertop like have plates appear and stuff. That type of stuff was definitely like, what the? Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's weird.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, and prior to the podcast, we talked about the FPS. It sounds like all that kind of stuff was actually very doable for the console. Another person was asking, does it have aim assist on the console or any kind of soft aim assist?
I didn't notice it, but I've always heard the saying of if you don't notice aim assist, it's probably on, and it's very, very natural. So It's definitely one of those things where I've seen some of the more hardcore aim assists, like famously Halo 2, would like magnetize you to people's heads. I did not have that whatsoever. I felt like, especially when I was using sniper rifles and stuff, it felt like there was no aim assist. If I was aiming from the hip in zombies mode, it did feel like there was something a little bit guiding me towards targets.
Very cool, man. I'm actually, the more I talk to you about it, the more I'm excited actually for it. Because I'll be honest, like I was all, I don't think so, and I want a couple days off after all the reviews, and then it's like. Here and no, like I said, I looked this morning. I just didn't see even the reviews when I looked. When did they go live this morning or yesterday?
I don't think they technically haven't gone live yet. A lot of people have like impression stuff, but there's no full reviews yet.
Yes,
mine's up. I just put mine up.
You just put yours up? Okay, yeah. So everybody go check that out. It's certainly one of those things where when I went, I was sort of expecting to see the pop in reviews and all that kind of stuff, and so I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. But it sounds, to me that all actually sounds much better. I enjoyed the beta. It's just I didn't know if I enjoyed it $60 worth. Like it was hard to was hard to know when you were playing that beta if that would last. If you do the $1 per hour thing and you want $60 60 hours, which that's quite a lot, but some people that's the way they are. I wasn't quite aware. Would you say so for six? You get what was your rate? If you don't mind, if you don't want to say it, don't say it. But
I gave it an 8.5. But at the end of the review, I also say if this does not sound amazing from everything they've seen in the video, don't grab it because I guarantee you this is going to be getting a discount soon. I guarantee it's going to be $40 pretty shortly, and I think it's definitely worth $40. And I also warn people if you can tell that there's going to be a lot of downloadable content in the future. So I feel like if people waited 6 months to pick it up, you're probably going to be buying it for $60 then and having extra map packs and patches to fix any like weird balance issues. So if this sounds amazing and you're obsessed with Battle Royale and zombies, yes. But if you do not have $60, if you can only buy one game this month, maybe not this. Maybe save it for Red Dead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe save it for the game that everybody's panicking about. Reg, did you? I think you got this right. You got Blackout. Yeah. What'd you get? Console or PC?
PlayStation 4.
I can't remember. Is that because you're not a big mouse and keyboard fan for shooters?
No, it's more like the Call of Duty multiplayer community on PC is usually the weakest, and it's the fastest.
Okay.
Also, the typical issue on PC of hackers and cheaters. So, for those kind of titles, I usually go console.
Okay, that makes sense. I on PS4 and Xbox, I think the only thing you would have is like mouse and keyboard, fake the fake mouse and keyboard. Those things are shit. And then Xbox is rolling out mouse and keyboard to preview folks now. I wonder if mouse and keyboard is going to be supported for this game. If they'll split the lobbies, how they'll handle that. It's going to be interesting to see how Microsoft handles the old mouse and keyboard thing for these kind of games, because that's going to be, especially on a twitchier shooter like this, mouse and keyboard's probably going to be a pretty big bonus for whoever's using it, even if it's just the console. If anybody has any further questions, we can return to this. We're going to jump to the next bit of news, I think. I'm just reading any comments. Let's see. The only console games... now they're just bitching about console games, which is
somebody actually asked me a good question. Dreamcast, do you see this game sort of taking over the scene over some of the other well-established games like Fortnite and no?
I think it's going to take a lot of fans from other Battle Royale games, but I still, and I've been saying this for months, I do think the lack of a single player is going to end up making this not sell as much as other Call of Duties. I think that they're trying to target other fan bases, which is something Call of Duty's never really done before. Typically, Call of Duty is the guy in the corner playing his own game, and if you want, you can come over and participate. This is the first time where he's trying to grab Battle Royale fans and more like Horde mode fans that maybe haven't played previous zombies. So I think there's probably going to be a couple million people who are jumping over from PUBG and jumping over from things like Fortnite, and we'll put a big dent in there. But I think for a COD game, I think this is actually going to make less of an impact.
Yeah, actually, that certainly I think seems like pretty much what I've felt. Also, every time somebody says there's a new PUBG style game, 6 months, 6 weeks later, you're right back to fucking Fortnite being the top. I'm not lying. Like every time somebody's like, "This game's amazing," and then this game has a couple caveats that I think if somebody does wait, like let's say they see Dreamcast guy's review and they're like, "Well, this isn't amazing. I am going to wait," then that also leans out the number of people playing it or streaming it, and I think it's completely possible we'll see it sort of bump, but not necessarily do the thing everybody was hoping, which is just magically take over. Or I don't know if I should say hoping, because I know a lot of people love Fortnite, but
I do think a lot of people, even in the Fortnite community, I think people wish that somebody would Thanos snap about half the audience out. That way Epic would get serious about improving it.
Yeah. So true. It is so true. They have sort of stopped on any front when it comes to improvements. Moving on from there, I want to talk a little bit about streaming. So Google has their streaming system, which, what is that called? Google Stream, right? Right? Isn't it the worst, most generic name ever? Yeah. They were doing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And then Xbox has Xstream. So first of all, we know both of these guys must have spent millions on deciding the names. Obviously. That was a heady attempt at coming up with some incredible names. But Dreamcast guy got to see it. I got to see it. I don't know if Reg or Jonny did. What do you think, Dreamcast guy? I know you said a fan sort of sent you some footage.
Holy hell. Like, it almost felt like that you're getting a window to the future for the first time, because, I mean, for the last 10 years, we've heard that the future is streaming, but everybody who tried it screwed it up. Like, PlayStation Now, excuse my French, fucking sucks. Like, it's so bad, and it looks like it should be so easy and good. So it's weird to finally see somebody step into the arena and put the billions on the table needed to make it work. But yeah, I watched about 35 minutes of Assassin's Creed Odyssey just being played in a Google Chrome browser, and it looked like my freaking PlayStation 4. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that they're doing it. I think, obviously, we are a ways out, especially America. People always forget that, like, these companies, when they say, oh, streaming's going to take over, America's one of their number one places for sales, and we don't have the best internet infrastructure. That's one thing. Bandwidth caps are another, which I just don't know, other than myself, who had to buy himself out of bandwidth caps. I literally had to pay a shit ton more so I don't get hit by those. Overall, I would say, yeah. I mean, I there was issues with compression I saw here and there when I was playing, but I would say I did on live. I've checked, so I did on live. I did NVIDIA streaming. I've done Steam streaming. I've done what's the other one? GeForce Now, right? GeForce Never is what that fucker should be called. That should not be in beta testing. It's alpha. But you have all those, and then you have this one, which just came along randomly. They're just like, hey, guess what? Google Stream, and it came up pretty quick. You got to sign in, and if you were lucky enough, you got to play Odyssey. So it's very cool that we're seeing it. Do you guys truly think, we already know there's going to be an Xbox XXL, whatever the fuck it's called, PS5, Switch 2, but do you guys think that'll be it? And then the next one will be seen streaming only, or do you think they'll be streaming and hardware? Reg, what do you think? Do you think we'll see like a mixed next gen?
Yeah, probably mixed. I would think. I mean, even if you say 2 console generations, that's at least 12 years.
Yeah, right.
Years.
Yeah.
12 probably more like. So, I mean, that's a long time in tech.
Yeah.
I could just as well shake the magic 8-ball. But personally, I don't know, because latency is that still an issue?
Yeah.
I mean, how was the project stream?
It worked okay. It was late. You could tell, though. Yeah, you could tell.
But that is definitely a step down. I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt in a good number of games, but especially in Twitch shooters and such, if you have latency, no bueno.
Yeah.
I mean, we're also already picking TVs going by latency. So if you add a whole internet connection, that's going both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4K HDR latency going both ways. Pretty soon your TV's at like 200 milliseconds for its latency, and you're all trying to getting a cup of coffee between the shoot and the actual occurrence.
I can definitely see it taking off in a way, just because you don't have to invest into any hardware. You pay like, I don't know what the prices will be, but let's say $10, $15 a month, and you have basically a gaming PC that gets constantly upgraded. Can always play the latest games, so that's certainly attractive.
Do you think?
But I think both options will just stay available.
Would you think, Reg, that the library might be the games that work best with it, kind of thing, where it's like, so Xbox, you can buy the thing and it renders everything there, or you have like almost like a Game Pass kind of thing where not all the games are on there, but the ones that don't require that kind of twitch are the ones that seem to get sort of the push.
I think overall everything is pushing towards the subscription model.
Yeah, right.
Everything. Everywhere.
I'm going to subscribe to my next marriage.
Yeah, definitely a subscription for some kind of catalog.
Right.
It could even be split off like strategy catalog, shooter catalog, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Jonny? What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I would put money on the table saying that it's going to be some sort of like Netflix for games, where they'll say, this is what we have. This is the roster, right, that we have this month, maybe, of games. And then you go in, you can play those games, and people can subscribe to that service. And they'll have some sort of client on their end, like a makeshift console that only sort of streams that. And that will be fine. But that won't replace the physical console that people will have. That will continue to be a thing because the tech is just not there. As you've said, there are data caps. People don't have the internet a lot of times. Either that, or you have to compress the shit out of your image, and then you're getting like, because if you guys, something akin to what's happening there is Parsec. For people who don't know, that allows you to play, basically someone else is playing the game at their home, right? And they're streaming the game to you, and you can play and interact with their game. And I've done that with friends, and the quality is quite poor. Like you can see the compression quite clearly in the image. So I don't think that level of compromise is something gamers, maybe like myself, who really want like the top sort of quality that they can get. I don't think people would be willing to, to grant that level of compromise. So I think it'll be something new that's up and coming for sure. But I don't think it will replace console gaming anytime soon.
What about you, Dreamcast guy?
I feel like it's very possible that everything goes streaming after the next generation. And the main reason I say that is there's some stuff drifting around behind the scenes, which is in development Xbox 2 games and PlayStation 5 games. And I've gotten a chance to look at a lot of these in detail. And the graphical jump is very small. Like I'd say Assassin's Creed Odyssey already looks like most of the next generation stuff I've gotten to take a glance at. So I feel like if PlayStation 6 era and Xbox 3 or whatever cringy awful name they make for it, if that is still the same realm, then it's just a matter of internet catching up with it. It's not about this constant arms race of increased graphics and increased 800 frames a second games. I think it's just a matter of catching up to what we currently have with internet. And I've always believed, actually, for the last like 10 years or so, I believe that Microsoft and Xbox want to have something where they literally just sell you a controller, where literally They send you a controller. Like I 100% think that Sony is behind the scenes doing tons of development to try and make it where they rent you a controller and it's like $25 a month and it attaches to any Sony phone or any Sony TV and you could play any Sony game instantly. Just stream Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy 14 or something that's not Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it because like even Xbox is streaming from your Xbox to your PC. You know, you can do that. Everybody's definitely going into streaming age. I think for me, it's just more along the lines of what they want to remove as a company when it comes to the consumers, because there are so many consumers that just don't have the infrastructure. It really does depend on if somebody steps forward, you know, an Elon Musk who's like smoking some dope and is like, I'm giving the internet to everybody with balloons. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that. I just think the infrastructure, especially in America, it's actually quite terrible. In other places, it goes up and down. It depends. Some people have just tremendously good internet in their areas. Others don't. I think that there's an issue where like a Microsoft in particular, who's never going to beat Japan. Like, they're never going to break the Japanese market. Like, we already know that. Whether you call it reverse racism, whatever, they're done. Like, so they already know that's one market, let's say, that they won't hit. And I wonder if a Microsoft looks and goes, well, not only will we not hit that one, but we can't hit people in this wide area who don't have an internet service of this speed. I personally believe that most likely what you'll have is a triple style of delivery service, which is you're streaming your hardware and then a streaming where it downloads onto your hardware, and it's like a rental service in that way. Because I agree, Microsoft obviously wants that. Sony's made it very clear. They're making switches now in the last couple weeks, actually, to the different stuff that they're offering. They obviously want to jump into streaming. So everybody wants to figure out some way to do it. But, yeah, the latency. So I guess with an Assassin's Creed 30 FPS on a console, the latency isn't going to be as noticeable. But, man, like I'm not quite sure I'd want to play fucking Blackout on my Chrome browser, right? Like, I don't know why, but the idea of being, it just feels like people just be schooling the shit out of you. I
know, yeah. Well, and you would only die because of the errors. Like, 100% of your deaths would be because like the frame rate started crashing or you had a spike to their server, and they'd be like, I'm not gonna play this. Like, I'm only dying because of this. I'm quitting.
Well, yeah, and look at how we respond right now to bugs. Well, even myself, I mean, I do get shit sometimes. People will be like, you're too hard on bugs. And I'm like, dude, if my car's brakes suddenly didn't work, I'd be pretty fucking pissed. So if a console game crashes a couple times, I already start going like, wait the fuck a minute. Like, we need to look at this and identify if this is acceptable for consumers. That's a console at your house, let alone the streaming. That game can crash on its own, let alone the latency, and you have that other thing of the customer service where everybody's outraged about everything as well. It would have to be a really good price. I think if these guys are smart, whatever happens, they'll do like Game Pass, where you look at the price and go, the fuck? Like, that's super low. If they do that, I think people will test it. You know, it'll be like, okay, at that cost, I'll test it. I hope they don't do the thing, which is what I'm worried about, which is where like, you can get Xbox Scarlet for $49.99 a month, because the number of people would be like, fuck it, I'm not even jumping into that. They really need to make sure that price is doable. Reg, let's talk a little bit about Witcher Netflix sex scenes. No, I'm just joking. But too bad Silver's not here, because I can't argue with him about Witcher's sex scenes sucking. But Netflix has announced the main cast, correct?
Yes.
Is it possible for you to read those names? Because I couldn't when I looked at them.
I'm trying to open it up now. I was not prepared.
Gotta always be prepared. You never know where I'm gonna jump. Never know. Never know.
Open every tab at once.
Yeah, I do have like 35 Google tabs open. But moving on. While he's looking, so they announced it. There were people wondering like exactly how it was all gonna turn out. If there was gonna be some political correctness, I guess you could say, what have you. But it looks like they frankly stuck quite close to the game's look of the characters from what I saw on the pictures. Would you guys agree?
It did. I definitely, just judging from their repertoire, I kind of give them credit. It looks like, because Yennefer looks like I think half black or something. I didn't know, but it looks like they kind of just chose whoever would be best at the role. Like, I looked at everybody's acting record, and it's one of those things where, like, I know a lot of people originally were skeptical because it's freaking Henry Cavill, but I think that, again, that's one of those things where with this show, I think they're just picking people that they think would play it right. Of like, okay, we're not trying to make Witcher 3 the TV show. We're trying to make the Witcher books in real life. And so I kind of just give them credit to the fact that they're kind of just picking whoever fits it best. And man, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped.
I mean, it makes total sense. If you put Nicolas Cage and John Wick, it wouldn't even be the same fucking movie, because one dude would be overacting, and then you got, Keanu Reeves, his fucking face,
killed my dog!
Dude, his face could be on fire, and the dude would still be like, whoa. And that'd be your only reaction from him. So it makes sense. Cavill may not be the best actor, but Geralt isn't necessarily the most emotive of fucking characters. It's not like he's a thespian. So I think it makes sense. Reg, did you find them?
Yeah. Freya Allen from the world's own Bluebird is Ciri. Anya Chalotra, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, from Wonderlust and the ABC Murders as Yennefer.
So somebody brings something up here in Twitch, and I want to ask you guys about it, because it's what I thought as well, which is Grape Ape 51 says, from the thumbnail, Yennefer looked very young. The actress.
Yes.
Did anybody else?
Yes, she looks very young. Yeah.
Like, the actress looks 12.
Yeah.
So is that gonna fit? Does that?
I think it will. So the biggest thing I've read about when it comes to TV production is when you're casting kids, you purposely cast them too young because they're going to grow up really quick. Right. Yeah. And so it's one of these where it's like, that way, if the show goes on for 4 seasons, by the end of it or whatever, then we start having like a more grown up Ciri who could actually be like going on full missions with Geralt, and it doesn't look weird. Whereas if they cast like a 16-year-old at the start, then there'd be this 20-year-old person be like, "Oi, I'm still a kid." Like, that's weird.
Yeah, you got 90210 syndrome where somebody's 31 pretending they're a 17-year-old in high school.
Do y'all remember? I was a huge fan of Lost, and the first 6 seasons of that show were supposed to take place in 100 days, and so because the little kid Walt is like at the end, like, Dad, we gotta get off the island. Like, isn't that kid 8?
Yeah.
What happened?
As you can hear his voice cracking in some episodes and shit, as he's just passing right through puberty in the middle of a season.
My coloring book.
Like, yeah, 17-year-old dude with a coloring book. You're like, is there some issue we need to talk about? So yeah, I think it's cool, man. I'm not as big of a fan as everybody else is of this, but I think it's cool because I'm a fantasy fan. So to me, the more Lord of the Rings that are successful, the more this that's successful than something I may like more is successful. And so I'm actually quite excited just for hoping that we get another Game of Thrones kind of success from something. Because there's more games out there I would love to. I mean, we're already getting a Star Wars Mandalorian TV show. It's like I would love to see, more of these games that I like starting to get their own shows. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. And it's Netflix. They'll spend $16 billion on it. We know the one thing they're not going to do is pull punches when it comes to cash. So I think that's probably the best thing. Is anybody worried it'll fail, or do you all think it'll do pretty good?
I think it'll do well, but I'm curious to see how long they keep it going. Because let's face facts of like video game tie-ins have to strike while the iron's hot.
For sure.
We're not getting another Witcher game for a long time, if ever. So, I mean, we kind of have the thing now of like, will the series survive on its own? That's going to be the billion-dollar question. I would hope we get multiple seasons of this, but how many casual audiences are going to understand a video game based on a Polish book,
Yeah. And a guy mixing a bunch of drugs and fucking taking them. What about you, Reg? I saw you nodding. Would you agree with all that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that I think at the beginning, at least, there will be a lot of people checking it out, but I don't know. It depends on how well it's written and performed, if the people will stick around for more.
Yeah, what about you, Jonny?
Yeah, I think it will do well for sure because people will watch it. Even if it's bad, people will check it out. It's like the Death Note movie. I personally thought it was a disaster, but everybody watched it anyways, right? So as far as Netflix goes, that was a success. So in that way, I think it might succeed in that same way. But if it's actually trash, then there won't be a second season, right? Because they made their money back, but then they're not interested in doing a second one. So that's what worries me. And having like a very young actress for Yennefer, because that's the one we were talking about, right? She looks very young, the Yennefer actress. And I think there's something that comes with age, like a certain panache, if you will. That if you look at someone like Cate Blanchett, she has it, right? She has the presence, and they can make her look younger, like in Ragnarok. She looked fantastic in that, and she had the presence.
You just like your emo girls. That's
okay,
the only.
Well, hear me out, right?
I was like,
me too, though.
But hear me out. Like someone way younger.
Yeah,
I'm skeptical that they can have that sort of presence in the scene.
Okay.
So I'd love to be surprised, but we'll see how it goes.
All right. That makes sense. Speaking of just white hot, wet, stinky trash, let's talk about Nintendo's official stance on the reason behind their disaster voice chat solution and their lies about why they did it. So, Jonny, this was under yours as something you wanted to talk about, or at least brought up first. Break into it, man. Tell us what's going on.
So, it's not that I hate Nintendo.
No, you hate
okay?
them. You said it prior to the podcast.
But that's just bullshit, right? I'm just going to call bullshit on that. So just to give sort of the statement, and I'm paraphrasing here, so I apologize, but the basic thing that was said is that they, as Nintendo, they are a company that is expected to differentiate themselves from other companies, and their fans expect something different than what other companies do. And that is why they came up with that voice chat solution, which for people who don't know, you basically need to use an app on your phone and connect to it outside of the console. So that solution is a disaster, right? It's a terrible design. It makes no sense from any standpoint. You can look at it in different ways. It's never a good solution. It doesn't make sense to anybody. You can think of all the use cases and the people that might use it. None of them fit that design, right? So it's just like, that is bullshit. That is not the reason why you did it that way. It still boggles my mind why they went with that design, because somebody at the table must have said that's not a good idea, right? But they still went through with it. So even after some games like Fortnite demonstrated that it can be done properly in the console, within the console system, they still haven't gone back on that and implemented it for other games. So yeah, well, I mean, what do you guys think? Am I wrong?
A Dreamcast guy, what do you think of it?
It's very annoying that this is happening, but it's more so that so many Nintendo fans are defending this two separate ways, because a lot of Nintendo fans will die on the altar of the fact that less voice chat is somehow a better thing. Number one, they say, like, I don't even like party chat. I don't need to be able to talk to people. So if it takes an app in order to do it, I mean, I'm cool with that. Or secondary, a lot of people say, well, Nintendo is purely focusing on the Japanese market with the Switch right now to make sure it really takes off there, since right now consoles are essentially dead in Japan for the most part. So if you manage to sell something like this and it tricks people into buying a bunch of games that they would not have done at all, it creates a new demographic. That's good. But it's like, okay, there are 330 Americans. That's just one country that is buying tons of Nintendo Switch. Americans love voice chat. If you get online in any game, there's some guy named Sephiroth Blunts 420 who is telling you all about how great it is to live in Mississippi and stuff. Like, voice chat is a very important part of gaming. So it's so frustrating that they don't just flip the switch.
I will personally say I've probably met that person, but he was telling me how much he enjoyed my mother's sexual prowess. That was usually what I always heard in chat. Exactly. Go ahead, Reg. What are you thinking about all this?
Well, I mean, the voice chat's solution was always ridiculous from the start, from the first time we heard about it. I mean, yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Remember in the
this?
Discord when they announced it, and everybody in Discord was like, and I was belligerent about it. I was like, the fuck are you talking about? I was like, you guys have no clue what you're talking about. There's no way a company would do this. They're like, yes.
And I mean, to launch it was even better.
Yeah.
It's not even not just that you had to use the app on the phone, but you couldn't even turn off the screen because it disconnected you immediately from voice chat. So somehow they found a way to make that solution even worse.
You know what's really like interesting to me is that Nintendo has accidentally disproved something else about this. Is originally they were saying that they wanted to try and put in at least a small barrier to make sure that it would be extra safe for kids. If like little children are jumping online, they don't want to hear like people talk about dicks in Minecraft or something like that. But what's really interesting is recently, and it seems like it may have been an accident to some degree, they enabled just random chat in Mario Kart Online. When you're just racing in Mario Kart, if you plug in the app and you plug in your headset, anybody else who also has the app and headset on can just talk to each other. Just literal random people talking to each other through a Nintendo system for the first time ever. And it is the most polite conversations ever. I mean, I literally got hit by a blue shell and a guy was, "Oh, shucks, I'm so sorry." Like, everybody is so polite. It's like Nintendo has spent so long cultivating this incredibly positive fan base. It's like you no longer need to put up all these like safeguard walls to your castle. Like, you already won. Like, let people talk and celebrate.
Yeah. So
and adding insults to injury was Fortnite basically that showed it's easy. It's in the hardware. The hardware can take it. Why exactly do we still have with paid online this ridiculous bullshit solution?
Right. Yeah.
No idea.
My personal opinion is that I think Nintendo was definitely telling the truth when they said one thing, which is that their fans expect something from them, and that's for them to sell them bullshit nostalgia and to lie. I fucking hate Nintendo. I'm going to be very clear about it. I love their systems, but they're terrible. The shit that they do and some of the decisions they made and have made continue to be absolutely asinine. And I fucking hate that mentality of 10 people sitting in a conference room. And I am sure, Jonny, no one said it was a bad idea because that's not the way they work. That conference room was a quiet conference room where somebody said, "I have an idea," and everybody was like, "Sounds good."
Just an echo chamber.
Yeah, and that gamers, not to be rude, we buy into it. You buy your SNES Classic with your 3-inch fucking cable. You buy all your bullshit rip-off nostalgia stuff from them, and they get away with it continually. And the thing is, a lot of people say buy with your or vote with your wallet, but we all know your money doesn't come with your name on it saying why you bought something. So that doesn't really always pay off. But I do think that Nintendo, with some social awareness, is coming around at times. I do sound overly harsh on them, but there are times where you can tell, they've seen the way things are going or they've thought things through, but they're still really headstrong. And look at Jack Tretton. He talked about working for Sony Japan when he was in IGN with Ryan McCafferty after he left Sony, and talking about working for a Japanese company versus an American one. It's pretty eye-opening. Well,
have you read Console Wars by Blake Harris?
Yeah, very good book.
Yeah, and you remember how much in that they talk a lot about the literal dawn of the console war, like early Sega clashing against early Nintendo.
Yeah.
And they talk about that it's mostly written from a Sega point of view, and Sega had the same problem where like these American guys are trying to come up with these crazy, really edgy commercials like the Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah.
They would not get approval for any of those projects because Sega of Japan was so rigid and did not want to ever rock the boat, and they wanted to just follow a plan, even if that plane went off a cliff, that eventually Sega of America was just doing stuff without permission and getting in trouble constantly. But it was like, look, man, like we're trying to sell units, and the only way to freaking get out here is to pretend we can go toe-to-toe with Nintendo. I think a lot of Japanese companies just have that problem of the old guard doesn't want to give up power.
Yeah. And as they say in Braveheart, we'll breed them out. They'll get old and die, and they say in Brave, believe what you want, but that's what'll happen. They'll get older, they'll die. People who lived in our current society will remember the things we're dealing with. Every time a YouTube reviewer starts a channel, that's a potential developer years later. Like, that's the way this shit works. So there's people in Japan, I'm sure, who want consoles to do well and are looking at Nintendo and going, I want to work at Nintendo to enact change. May take a long time, but you can guarantee there are people doing that. What were you going to say, Dreamcast guy?
I was going to say, oh yeah, your mom was telling me something about breeding last night.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. There we go. Right out of an American chat. That's exactly what you would get. Not a Nintendo chat, but an Xbox chat. It would be me logging in. Actually, I got to admit, every time I log in, I'm really surprised by most of the time I don't hear that. But it was, what was the game we were playing a couple days ago? And I, no lie, I hit start, and we're in the lobby, and I see, you know, the X mark saying people are muted, and they start uncommon muted, and I have the earphones off, and I put the earphones on, and it is literally like 14 cuss words in a row without a noun or a verb. It was just like, fuck, shit, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, hello, turning those off, muting those right now.
I had that last night when I first got into Call of Duty, and the servers are going public, and I'd already played a couple rounds, so I'm warmed up and I'm playing. And this guy, like, everybody's just sitting there and playing the game silently. And I see mics turn on occasionally, so people are clearly like, hey, their mics are on, they're just not saying anything. And all of a sudden, this one guy, every time he gets hit, is just like, oh my god, these dick suckers, bro. And then I hear him vaping right in the mic. It's like, all right.
Oh, man.
I just mute everybody.
Congratulations, gamers, man. Thanks for making us look good. I appreciate it, guys. Keep that up. Speaking of looking good, something that didn't, Fallout 76. So, Fallout 76 embargo broke for the event. Mr. Matty got to go. A couple other people. There's a lot of video posted. If you get a chance, check out Digital Foundry. They did a video here today where they discussed it more from a technical element, which I think, not to be rude, that's sort of where it should be right now, because a lot of us know what it's going to be game-wise now, that, you know, it is going to be like a Fallout 4, you know, we know about the NPC issue, we know about how things are going. They were saying single fucking digit frame rates at times. And
so crazy.
I don't know about you guys, but it feels really close to release to be getting single-digit frame rates at times.
I don't know what that looks like. That's like
it looks like a picture,
a slideshow. That's a presentation.
Yeah, it looks like a screenshot, and then move the screenshot a lot, and then that's your next frame.
It looks sticky. Like, that's the weird thing is, a lot of times when I saw people like run around, they're trying to like walk up to other players, and the only way you could describe it is sticky, where people literally like jumping around. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, man. The thing is I really want it to do good. A co-op like Fallout is what I've been wanting for a long time. This wouldn't be necessarily co-op, but this is smaller multiplayer servers and stuff. But technically, I don't know about you guys, but I really wish they would just hire a company to write a game engine for them. I swear to God, it feels like their game engine's the same one from Daggerfall, and they just keep. They're like, oh, DirectX came out, and they update that, and that's it. And you're still looking at, like, this looks like Oblivion in my Skyrim. Skyrim looks like it's in Fallout. I mean, is there any other company that if you saw their games, you could almost guarantee to be able to say who made it? Like, there's something about Fallout.
Telltale.
Telltale is the
Telltale.
typical.
Telltale, of course, yeah.
I'd say Final Fantasy for the last, Square Enix for the last like 15 years, because all their stuff just looks like is anime. It looks like CG anime now. Yeah,
true. That is true. It's sad, man. I don't know what to say. Watching that Digital Foundry video, there were some great parts. Don't get me wrong, but the thing is, I want all games to succeed in the long run, because as long as there's not some hubbub about it behind the scenes. But because then you get other developers looking at it going, oh, that works. People are going to like this, and it's more entertainment for us. And it's a possibility of more consumers. But I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know.
Can I say my biggest problem with Fallout 76, now that we've seen like so many hours of the gameplay posted online, is I feel like Fallout 76 misses the most fundamental aspect in the Fallout series, which is that war is bad. The entire freaking point is the fact that, hey, remember how we all destroyed ourselves because we were just so careless with nuclear explosions?
Let's do it again.
A core aspect of this is LOL nuclear friends. That is so, like, it is so counterintuitive to the thing. It honestly, it really annoys me as a fan of Fallout, because
I see that.
So many quests and stuff, and that is such a heavy underlying meaning. Even when you're talking to like the ghouls who aren't feral, the people who literally are like ageless beings because of this heavy level of radiation, they talk about like, yeah, it's cool that I'm gonna like live forever. But hey, we shouldn't have had this nuclear war in the first place. Like, we scorched every city off the surface for nothing but political agreements that the books burnt up when we lost the records of why the fights even happened. And now in this game, they're literally like, hey, if your bro is vaping a little too hard, you go get those codes over there, use nuke. It's like, that's so weird to me.
Yeah, there is a dissonance there. I guess, in the narrative. Now that you bring it up, that certainly does.
Yeah, I
pop up.
hadn't thought about it.
I think
It's
for me,
very
the big
dissonant,
one is
isn't
also
it?
the lack of those NPCs. I don't care; they can explain it away whatever way they want. I'm sorry, that's their Nintendo trying to pretend that their chat system works well, and you're sitting there when they talk. And you're like, do you realize that you spent, like 16 hours talking around something that if you had put it in, it would be 1 minute of saying, here's the NPCs. But instead, it's like all this other stuff, and it never feels like it's coming together. It never feels like it's coming together. Even the videos they showed of everybody running around, and they were like, this is great, we're all running around. And I'm like, a bunch of dudes in the same blue suit with the same birthday fucking hat on are running around setting off nukes. Yep. And I'm just like, and I get that you'll be upgraded and stuff, but I'm not 100% sure that sells a gamer day one either. And it feels to me like Bethesda at some point just decided to just go for fans, like a specific type of fan.
Yep.
Like in some way.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it or what that fan is, but it feels like they aimed at something and they're like, you know what? Maybe this isn't working the way we wanted. We're going to go for this one particular thing. And they were talking about events. They were like holiday events. And I'm all, dude, World of Warcraft did Christmas. Like, you're not magically doing something other people haven't done. So explain something that you are doing. I love the anti-griefing system. Probably the best anti-griefing system I've heard of, as long as it works. But I like the idea of that. I like some of their ideas, but overall, it's questionable. I don't know, Reg. What do you think? You don't seem to be saying much about it. Is there nothing to say?
No. I mean, I already didn't like Fallout 4. And
didn't
Fallout
like
76.
Like at all?
Didn't like it.
Really? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, not a huge fan.
Okay.
And multiplayer in like Fallout or Skyrim kind of game is definitely not for me. That's absolutely not the reason I play the game. And I never was just sitting there and thinking, well, if I only had other people in here. Not interested at all.
All right. What about you, Jonny?
Yeah, what Dreamcast guys struck a chord with me right now. It's like it makes no sense narratively that's happening. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing, guys? Because the whole thing in Fallout is like, even though there's different factions, everybody is sort of the good guy under their own faction, notion, right? They have like different tacks, right? But essentially, it's like we're all in this together. We're trying to sort of make the best of the world. But here is just like he said, it's like LOL bombed you, right? Like, what are we doing? And then the other thing is, the engine, it's like they have this old 1980s car and they put like some fancy accessories
all-wheel drive
on it.
in a Dodge Dart.
And that comes in the form of better lighting and stuff that they put on top, right? We can see it's a little bit better, but it's the same shit, right? It's the same turd. It's just like well polished and like has a little lace on top of it, but it's the same turd. And for games now, several games in a row from them, I keep expecting them to try something different, build maybe a different engine or try something new that really shakes things up, because every game looks like the same game. And this is coming from someone who enjoyed their games, right? I like Skyrim. I played it in VR. Fallout 4, liked it, played it in VR as well. Big fan. But graphically, it looks like the same game. And it looks like they kept the shell of Fallout 4 and they just made it into like an MMO type thing, and it's just people aimlessly running around. I don't see even a purpose to what they're doing, to be honest.
Yeah, either do I. Dreamcast guy, how long do you have? I know you were saying you don't want to go too long.
I've got another 30 minutes.
Okay, great. So let's go to patron questions, because there's a question here I wanted to. There's a couple, but this one in particular. Got it from eBay, which, by the way, excellent username. Says, do you think Assassin's Creed, the Assassin's Creed franchise would have survived had it not evolved into Odyssey and Origins? So, go for it.
I would say that it was a smart choice, but I think it was like doing steroids in your 60s. It's going to make him stronger for a bit, but I think it's going to end up blowing up eventually and killing him. I think killing off the original hero and making it where it's like less bound to a single storyline and just kind of making each one about like one little fun slice of history, I think that's going to make it where the fan base whittles down again.
Okay. That makes sense.
I think Odyssey and Origins are great. Odyssey especially. I love the talent trees. I love being able to kick people off mountains with my tree trunk thighs. I think that's so fun. But I do think that they're going to hit a point where like they're going to probably do Japan in 2020. And that's going to be spectacular. And then they're probably going to be like India. And then I feel like they're going to hit that wall and just kind of be like, that's it. There's nothing to motivate you to play it anymore.
I personally feel like whenever you separate a location and make such a big deal about one location, that happens anyway, because some people aren't interested in Japan. Some people aren't interested for sure in the Middle East and Africa. We saw that with Origins, where people are like, it's all desert, fuckers. I don't want to. Now, to me, I was like, it's not.
Yep.
It is, but it's not. Like, you should check it out. Odyssey, a lot of people were like, this looks like Origins. It's definitely not, especially when you start traveling around. But I totally get it, and I absolutely agree that what we'll see, if they continue to pair it, is we'll see, like, just people. I mean, you're only going to be interested in that because there isn't anything else going on. It's just that one little slice of location. Each time. What about you, Reg? Do you think this was a good idea, a bad idea for them?
I personally absolutely welcome that the whole Red Thread storyline is pretty much gone. I love that fact about it.
Yeah.
The less it exists in the game, the better.
Because you beat Odyssey just now, right?
Yeah, almost. I still have a couple points on one of the main story quests, but otherwise I'm done.
Damn.
I played an average, I think, 7 hours per day since it came out.
Whoa.
Damn. Wow.
Holy balls.
That game. And yeah, I mean, I could almost not be happier the way they've been gone with that.
That makes total sense. What about you, Jonny?
I mean,
go ahead, Reg.
If they have a little bit of Animus stuff still in there.
Mm-hmm.
The last one, the Odyssey, I didn't like that because it tore you out of the game and forced you to actually walk around for a bit and do shit in the current time. In this one, they're like, yeah, if you want, you can go right back in. So that's good. And if they rip it out completely, I wouldn't shed a tear either.
Okay. What about you, Jonny?
That encourages me hearing Reg say that, because he's someone a little bit like me, where the moment he gets a quest that's like, hey, can you hand this to this person? That's it. That's a wrap, right? We're done.
Yeah, we're done with that game.
Like very little patience for repetitive quests and so on. So that's a good sign to me that the game really holds up in its entirety. So I'm way earlier on. I'm like 12 hours in still, but still in the honeymoon phase. So having a blast so far. Not that it's perfect, but really, really good to me. I don't have much to add on top of that.
Would you say this is a good change then?
Yeah, I'm on board with it.
So I think it's a great change, but I loved Syndicate, and I know that not a lot of people did. Some people didn't. Some people liked Unity. Unity was a buggy POS, should never have been released. Sorry. I loved Syndicate, and that's an old style, right? Like but again, I think I liked it just for the location. I loved saving the kids from child slavery. I just thought that was the coolest fucking thing in the world. But at the same time, Odyssey, people can fucking claim that like everybody who likes it's paid off, but at some point you start looking at all these people liking it, and you're like, I don't think Joe Blow, the random gamer, or Jonny is getting any cash for really liking Odyssey versus the prior games. And so you have to look at it and go, at least in that element, I think it is a success. But I also am definitely worried that unless they get better. So Witcher 3, I felt the main story I didn't like. I love the side quests. I felt that the side quests were the meat of Witcher 3 and my enjoyment. Odyssey, they mix in. You got the cultists, which I loved. I loved like the investigation, the exploration, the fucking mercenary systems. But they are sort of separate in their own places. If they don't bring that together and get like a Witcher 3, if they want to go towards Witcher 3, they need to get writers in to go, okay, we need to shore up all the quests a little bit, because they're funny and fun at times, but there's some burner quests in there that you get where you're like, What the fuck's this? Like, and like Jonny said, the guy will be like, hey, can you grab this ticket and walk it 5 feet to that motherfucker? And I'll be like, no, but I'll stab you in the neck. What the fuck? You're a big warrior. You're all decked out. You've been slaughtering people, and they're like, could you deliver something like a fucking pigeon?
Yeah, what the fuck?
So
when
they need to go away from that. They
well,
really
so like,
do.
just can you destroy this boat and you sail out in the river and there's just like 800 other boats shooting at them and it's like, did you pay all these people? Or I'm just gonna leave.
I love it when they also will be like, can you go to this bandit camp? And you're all okay. And of course, those are the missions, the daily missions on the adventure board. But after a while, you're like, why would any bandits be anywhere near here? I fucking killed 8,000 billion bandits. Like, so the bandits would band together and leave. Yeah. They wouldn't be like, let's continue to hunt in these same places. They'd be like, fuck this shit. This is dangerous here. I'm leaving. But I think the conquest battle idea was good.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the multi-person battle system. I still think they have a lot to maybe. They have to look more at Batman. They have to figure a couple slicker ways of moving your targeting between characters, a couple things like that. But yeah, it's a good question. I thank you for asking it because I think that just because we like it, it's also a sign of the future that if they don't shore that up as they move on, it could be an issue. Game Over Man says if you could resurrect one game studio, what would it be? Oh, Telltale. He was saying because of Telltale, he wanted to ask this.
Visceral. Visceral. I would actually. I'm such an I love the idea of another Dead Space, and I've actually suggested this a couple times publicly. But I would love if that team, or what's still there, like the core nugget of developers and directors, would go to Kickstarter and just make.
Right.
Like literally a game that's basically Dead Space 4 and just call it like Unalive Not Earth.
Black Vacuum.
Black Vacuum.
Just completely generic.
And just make it basically Dead Space 4 because we'd all buy it. I feel like I recently played back through the original Dead Space.
Yeah.
It manages to do body horror and like psychological terror in such a like scientifically well-constructed way that it makes me sad that team was destroyed. It's so weird to me.
Yeah, it's a very good example. What about you, Reg? Is there any dev team you'd like to see?
Bullfrog.
What did they do? Magic Carpet, Dungeon Keeper,
Theme Park.
Oh, right. Man, I forgot about Theme Park. Holy shit, how did I forget about them? What else did Bullfrog do? They did Magic Carpet. There was another one. Syndicate. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. What about you, Jonny?
Yeah, I'm not as knowledgeable as you guys in terms of which studio was behind what, but I would say the old BioWare team, the guys behind, Mass Effect and the original games. I think they had something there. They had like some magic. I know it is, right? And it's not, even though it's still called BioWare, we understand that it's not the same sauce. But I kind of wish they could replicate that chemistry, that sort of magic that they had, and I sort of keep hoping that the people involved back then form back together, like the band goes back together.
The doctors, the last interview, both the doctors, because I personally believe the doctors, but the two main leads, Ray and Steve, I believe, there's something about their leadership that caused what we saw. Yeah, and I personally, the last thing I heard, it doesn't sound like they want to come back because they hate gaming. But I'm going to tell you, the only reason I'm not saying that is because I don't want to get my hopes up. What I mean is the reason why I'm not using that as my example as well is because I wouldn't want to get my hopes up. But I would agree. Like, I mean, they're some of the best games of my life from that team.
Yeah, man.
So, I mean, in fact, they might be the best games of my life.
I saw some interviews with them right after they released Mass Effect 2, and they did like this 10-page interview with Game Informer, and I read it, and it was just so interesting seeing these dudes talk about like scraping together their money to make BioWare, which originally was just going to make basically programs for hospitals to be more efficient.
Yeah.
And then they decided, let's try and make a game, and then Baldur's Gate took off, and they decided, well, let's try KOTOR, and now let's try this. And so like they kept making these great projects because they just had that fire that I feel like is so rare. Of like, those dudes would probably work 80 hours straight sometimes, probably, and just not care. And now it's just one of those things where it's like they burn themselves out. Now they have so many hundreds of millions of dollars, they can just go back to being doctors.
Yeah, and I think the burning out, you know, like even millionaires, you'll see sometimes they just sort of drop off the cliff, like you don't hear about them anymore. And it's because it's not even just money sometimes. Sometimes it's just like they're at some point their brain is done with that subject matter. And Steve in particular, he's the brewer. I think he's the brewmaster now. And when they did an interview with him, they were like, but chances you coming back? And he's like, less than zero. He's like, I'm done with that industry. And that was prior to all this bullshit we're dealing with now. So it's pretty interesting to hear. My personal opinion, for me, what I would like to see come back would be Westwood. Call it Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer.
Yeah. Westwood's death was weird to me because I liked those games, but I sort of liked them more once they died. I mean, I went back, like, I was like, oh shit, this sucks. Went back and checked their stuff out and was like, damn, I forgot how many of their games I liked without realizing it was Westwood. So I personally think they were turned into just a steaming pile of dump from EA. Like they neutered them. They gelded them. So I personally feel that's a group of people out there that could definitely come to Kickstarter. I would love to see them, not Command and Conquer. What would you call it? Order and direct or something.
Separate. I'd call it separate and destroy.
There you go. And it's just like, but it's Command and Conquer, and you're like, yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
Just flip the words: conquer and command.
See,
yeah.
Dude, that'd be so awesome. You know how EA would be. They'd be all over that shit. Let's see. Oh, so Takedown wanted to know. He had a question that was, to those who played all 3 of the Tomb Raider reboots trilogy, what's your ranking and why? Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Dreamcast.
I'm going to go with Rise is my number 1. I'm going to go with Tomb Raider, just called Tomb Raider, is number 2, and then Shadow, number 3. And I would say that Shadow is probably the best built of the games, but it doesn't seem to have that same spark to it. Like the first game, you really are kind of learning about this new Laura. She's sort of figuring herself out. The island is mysterious. Right. We're seeing magic for the first time. And then the second game, we're seeing her like actually figure stuff out and get the twin pistols. And it really sets up this universe. And the third game has the best stealth and crafting. But at that point, it's kind of just like, okay, are we going to like become the Tomb Raider at some point, or
yeah.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Reg? Have you beat them all?
No.
Have you played them all?
Beat them all. I've played them all. I've beaten the previous ones. I have not yet beaten the current one.
What do you think?
Because I'm stuck in Odyssey still.
Yeah.
For me, the current one would be the number 1. Then the first one would be second place, and the one in the middle would be third place.
What? Wait.
Dude, turned into Kermit the Frog.
I did. You're fucking a bearded Kermit the Frog, which is terrifying. Just even thinking about. You're saying Rise, which is the second one. You would consider the least enjoyable, or the least good. That's
so weird.
What's wrong with you, man? What's wrong? Really? Do you remember why? Well, is it just lack of memory? Like, as in it didn't solidify itself?
I remember the first one. It was just fresh and interesting because of that.
Sure.
The reboot. So that's why I placed it in the middle.
Okay.
The current one, I just like the story the best.
Mm-hmm.
I feel involved the most from all the 3. So naturally, the second one is last place.
Damn. Jonny, what about you, man? Oh, wait.
I didn't play Rise.
Okay.
I didn't play Rise. I beat the first one, the reboot one, and I'm like 10 hours into the most recent one. The most recent one is just very polished. It's a beautiful graphical experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there are some elements that I love. I think this is the first type of or the first game in the genre that does the thing where it removes the bird poop.
Yeah,
the
you
bird
can turn
droppings
the
that I always call them.
mode on.
You can turn them off. And for me, it works great. I haven't had, sometimes I'll jump to my death, and then it's a compilation of Lara dying in horrible and gruesome ways, which is fantastic. But, aside from those moments, it works very well. I like the moment to moment. The action is good. It does hold your hand, and it's not like a very difficult game in normal difficulty. but I'm enjoying it, just like a roller coaster ride where it's like you don't have to retry sequences over and over. I'm just like, boom, boom, action and seeing stuff. I'm enjoying it a lot. It still feels like she's early on in the arc. Like I think someone said, she's not yet the Tomb Raider. And there's more murdering versus tomb raiding than I remember. Still, I was kind of hoping there would be more tomb raiding as opposed to just murdering 20 dudes in one single place and then like moving on to the next place and murdering another batch of dudes. Go ahead. Yeah. So this one is the one I'm enjoying the most, but I haven't played Rise, so I can't comment on that one.
Okay. So for me, Rise by far is my favorite. But I just like the snowy Siberian weather. I liked all the different. It just had. It's almost like Odyssey versus Origins. Origin is mostly sand, and then Odyssey is like Mediterranean. All these different places. You never quite know. It'll be a forested area one place, more of a beachy desert area the next. So there's more that feeling of variety. But this new one, the ability to turn off the pigeon poop is just the best part of it. To finally say, I'm just going to run around this game world and possibly die at any moment because the game isn't telling me. Horizon Zero Dawn was easily the worst offender of this, where they put fucking the mountain climbing shit on every cliff corner. And you're just like, it's a jungle gym. It looks like the backyard at a YMCA. Somebody's fucking rock hill, like their rock climb they built with the colored different handholds.
Yeah. Well, so it almost felt like a ladder where literally it'd be like, you have to find some mysterious way to get on top of this mountain. And you just literally walk around the side until you see what is essentially a rock ladder. Like, there it is.
Yeah, you're like, it's about as mysterious as doing a 360, which, hey, for some people might be mysterious. But I would say that Rise is probably the most enjoyable. I do think that first time you turn into a burn victim in this new one, when you get the mud on you and you look straight out of a horror film, because I don't know what was wrong with the mud shader, but it didn't look like mud to me. It looked like she had been burned horridly. She stands up and I'm like, in the middle of the night, I'm like, God damn! I had no clue what had happened. And I was like, this chick looks, like at that part, I was all, okay, I'm into this. Her rubbing mud on her face, I thought that was just awesome. I like those elements. But I think 3 is almost polished too much. I know that sounds weird, so it's probably the wrong way to say it. People are going to shit. But 2 still had varied things going on, where 3 is like boom to boom to boom to boom to boom. And I get why people like that, but to me, there's that little feeling of just a little too slick on the way. It's like Uncharted 4 versus 2 for a lot of people. I know a lot of people like 2 more than 4. They feel 4 is a little too slick. So... But yeah, it's a good question, man. Those are all good games, though. I mean, it's cool. Oh, also, let's be honest. Let's just make sure that everybody understands that the developer's full of shit whenever they try to pretend that we're becoming a Tomb Raider. That's just typical PR bullshit to try to get you to buy into the story. I mean,
it's like Fortnite being early access. That shit's never leaving early access.
It's like Ark. You're just like, not quite sure. The next thing, let's see. You got about 10 more minutes. Dreamcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, big question. Yeah. No, we'll skip that one. That's just a mean question. All right. Matt says, I'm currently.
Is it a mean one towards me?
Oh, no. It was a mean one. It was a mean one towards games, and I was just like, I don't want to get negative.
Okay.
So Matt Wu, I think this is Matt 0044 or something, because this sounds like him. I'm currently on holiday in Thailand, and I've been searching everywhere for Xbox games. There are a few here and there. By few, I mean literally a few. Every store almost exclusively stocks PS and some Nintendo. This is across 2 cities, Bangkok and Pattaya. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm used to stores being somewhat 40-40-20. Does anyone else see a dominance of one console like this in their particular region? I think for Dreamcast and I, because we're both in America, it's going to be somewhat the same. But what about you both? Like, what do you guys see?
Yeah, I think PS4 is more common in the UK. But just judging from the circles that I frequent, I don't speak for the entire country.
No, you do right now. Speak for the country. This is it.
You are ambassador.
You're on. Yeah, your flag behind you. I'm going to green screen a flag behind you. You're speaking for them. What about you, Reg?
I would say PlayStation 4 is a bit more, but Xbox games are definitely prominent as well. They usually both have their own sites in the store. And PC games did come back. They were down to like this much space in the shops, and now they're pretty much as big an aisle as PlayStation 4 games.
What? Is it a code? Or is it a game inside?
Yeah, well, it's at least the boxes. I don't know. Sometimes
because you don't buy them,
just
probably,
a code
right?
in there.
Huh. Wow, I didn't know that.
Lots of physical copies again.
Oh, very cool.
Physical copies,
Yeah, right.
Download codes in there.
Here's your download code of a single-player game. But no, that's interesting. I never thought about that. This is a cool question, never been asked. Dale says, I believe this is Dale Kramer Guitars. Can you describe your desk layouts? Is there anything special ergonomics-wise, like lumbar pillows, footrests, mouse-wise, anything like that? Blue filters for your screen that you guys use. So, Reg, we'll start with you. Got anything? Because you work from home.
Yes.
So, anything special?
No.
No,
Nothing.
Really?
I mean, I can adjust the height of the table, but that's about it.
Damn. So no fancy lumbar pillow, no chick that comes and massages you. There's just nothing.
Well, that's at the office.
Oh yeah, you guys do have a masseuse, don't you?
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
You
actually
do. I remember you saying that.
What?
Yeah, they've got a masseuse at their office. My wife
Where's
does
my
too.
masseuse, bitch?
I don't know. Go buy one. So, what about you, Jonny? What do you got going on at your new office, your new home?
Yeah. So I also work from home mostly, and well, not that Reg does. I do. Anyways, I have a switch that has like a bunch of stuff plugged into, a bunch of USB stuff. You press the button, it switches all of that stuff from my personal PC to my work PC, work laptop. And so let's say my mouse and peripherals and all of that's plugged into that device. And with the press of a button, I'm controlling my personal PC that I have on one screen, and touch that button again. Now I'm controlling my work computer with, the same peripherals. And it's just like it takes less than a second. So that's very handy if you have two PCs, two computers. And aside from that, just the shock mount is something that I recommend to anybody that uses a mic, because it removes, like right now I'm tapping my desk and it's barely audible if at all. So I do recommend a shock mount. It's something that people skip because they think it's bulky, but it's worth it if you do any audio work.
Gotcha.
Also, shock mount, something else that people don't realize is I used to live, when I lived in like the ghetto of Dallas, I lived right next to a highway, and big trucks would drive past all day long, which makes your desk ever so slightly vibrate, and you would see that. So I would have to literally read my lines in between cars, whereas with the shock mount, it absorbs all that vibration.
Whoa. Yeah.
Speaking of that, what do you got on yours, Dreamcast guy?
So nobody's ever noticed this, and I don't know why, because I thought I was so clever for it, but my entire office is all broken down by companies. So I've got the Xbox One in the background and about 1,000 Xbox games beneath it. Then, of course, there's the Switch box and about every single like PlayStation or GameCube strategy guides. And then below it are tons and tons and tons of GameCube games, Nintendo 64 games and stuff. And then I have the same setup with all my work stuff is actually set up for whatever console I need. So I have Nintendo Switch on top, and it's all wired through the capture card. So basically, I just have a big button I press for if I'm reviewing a Switch game this week, a PlayStation game this week, or an Xbox One game this week. And the thing everybody makes fun of me for is I have a $10 computer chair because I'm so cheap. I literally got this for $10.
Oh my God, it's a barbecue chair. That's awesome.
It's so awful, but it's silent. And my previous chairs always creaked. So once I found a silent chair for $10, now I can literally move around while I'm recording audio and never hear a tiny peep. So I've just never replaced this. So many chair companies are like, we'll send you a $300 chair for free. And it's like, I'll stick with my $5 chair. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's a disaster. It's a fucking absolute mess. I use because I do a lot of testing for audio for devices. I use ProSonus monitors for my speakers instead of a normal stereo system, which are nice. I use a Roland Quad for capturing audio, which is nice because it removes. I live in an old house, so it removes ground hum. It removes a bunch of different stuff. Doesn't make it perfect, but as somebody who's spent thousands trying to fix it, it was nice to finally find an audio device. USB audio device where you just plug in your mic, hit a button, and it senses it with white noise and fixes all your shit. Other than that, I'm like Dreamcast guy. I've got some different capture cards. Right now, I'm in the middle of two computers. trying to bounce between both and figure out which one I'm going to use for primary stuff. So I have a 4K, two 4K capture cards, which let me tell you, man, those things ain't necessarily the highest fucking success rate. Reg had an issue with the Aver Media, right?
Exactly. I returned it.
Yeah. I have two 4K capture cards and two 1080p capture cards. And then my systems aren't in the room. They're about 60 feet away. So I have boosted HDMI wires. Not boosted as in stolen, for anybody who uses that word. Boosted as in amplified, so because HDMI signal normally doesn't go that far. That's pretty much it. This is all fucking something I made in the background so you don't see my fucking AC I shoved in the window. Other than that, I mean, I don't have a nice place. It's a disaster. One of my friends was like, dude, we win. I've told this story before, but before Dreamcast goes. So basically, I was recording in this other room I have, and we called it the Asian room because that's how I decorated it in like Asian style. And I painted it. It looks so nice. But when people were watching us, they were like, "This looks like the nicest setup I've ever seen. 10 times better than what I'm in now." Like they were like, "This is amazing. What's it look like in the rest of the room?" What I didn't show people is I had been so lazy, I didn't even paint the rest of the room. I painted the swatch, the swath behind us, this really nice gray. I put up a blind, but on the other side is like fucking cables, HDMI shit, tripods, fucking board games. Like it looks like an explosion of just some hoarder went off on the other side.
That's secretly what my setup is. So I purposely set up. I'll actually, for the first time ever, I'll tilt my camera.
Oh God, I'm not doing that. You got guts.
Like, bro, I've got broken. This is my broken bookshelf with hundreds of books. That's blocking off a window. There's soundproofing behind that. And if you tilt the other way and move the mic, you see there's literally broken shelves to block the doors so my roommates don't accidentally walk in. Like the ceiling is all soundproofing. It's just literally like whatever works, man.
Yeah, whatever works. And I'm in a bedroom that I share, so it's like whenever anybody comes in, I'm like, could you walk around? And there's like a space this big to like go to there, and I'm just like, man, being a YouTuber, it may look a certain way, but unless you're Markiplier, nice guy by the way, who's got his amazing setup, unless you're one of those guys, a lot of us are working out of the same room, like that we live in, like this is our room. It's like you got a bed hidden somewhere, whether it be a hide-a-bed or otherwise.
That was the way I used to have to set my bed up to film rant videos. I literally put the bed up against the wall and then set the tripod down because the room was so small the tripod could not get far enough from me.
It's funny because it'll look a certain way. Like people see it and they'll never even think about it. And then once they ask, and you're like, yeah, dude, it's a like wires for me are a disaster. And this is what I did for 12 years. I set up home theaters, but wires, once you put a wire over another one, and then you come back to it and you're like, I'll get to that in a second. And then another wire's laid over that. And pretty soon, you're afraid cats are dying in there because they're going to get stuck. It's just it's a disaster.
I was the biggest Total Biscuit fan in the world. I love that man to death. I think he influenced the industry so positively forever. And unfortunately, when he passed away, one of the things Jenna talked about is that he was just just plug it in. Like, let's work. Like, okay, here's a new thing. And so she said when he passed away and they actually had to like go into his office and like figure out how everything worked. She said there's just literally be hundreds of wires just piled on top of each other and then like a bag of Doritos sitting on it. And she's like, well, how do you look at that? How do you do that?
The throne of TB, which is funny because when I used to talk to him on Twitter or on Twitter, I did tell him that my desk was a mess, and he did allude to his being a mess. He wasn't very open about it, but he was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about because we both liked airsoft. So one time we were doing a private chat, we were showing each other our airsoft guns because you don't want to do that on YouTube now. Fucking they'll sense it and turn it off. But then when I put it down, it knocked down a ton of shit. And he's like, YouTuber pile, right? And I'm all, YouTuber pile. And he's like, that's your shit pile. I heard your gun actually knock it down. Like, all YouTubers have that pile where shit just goes. 100%. And then, it's very cool.
I knock over my spotlights about 80 times a week, just trying to move around. It's like, well, this is a good office, but I have literally wires all over the floor. You're going to be like, all right, I need to plug in an SNES Classic Edition. Oh, God, things are falling over.
Yeah. And that's if the shit works, at least on my PC. Like, a capture card will be like, yeah, not gonna capture today. And then you have to unplug, find the right USB. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about before we close this sumbitch up? We've talked about a bunch of shit. Dreamcast guy, other than
missed
go ahead.
Last week. that somebody asked. I thought it was an interesting thing, a little bit outside of gaming, but somebody asked, I can't remember, I apologize, if we have like an audiobook or a book that we're reading currently that we recommend to people.
Oh, okay.
And maybe we can just go around the room in case you guys are reading something interesting.
Go for it. You go. You started this mess.
Yeah. Right now I'm reading Max Tegmark's Life 3.0. And it's basically a conversation about AI and, where it's going and how things are. And it's been very interesting. I really recommend it. If you're into the AI stuff at all, it's like, it's very enlightening. And the guy is fascinating. Max Tegmark, if you want to look him up, he's he's a physicist. He's like a very well-spoken guy. He's very good at talking about stuff in a way that people can understand, even though they're laymen like myself. Mm-hmm. So, I recommend people check that out. It's on Audible. You can check the audiobook out or read the book.
What about you, Reg?
I recently finished the Bobbyverse series. It's 3 books currently. It's also science fiction.
Uh-huh.
It's like a comedy?
Sorta. There's certainly comedic elements in it, but it's more like humanity has completely destroyed Earth, and they're like saving the last couple million people and getting them off planet.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And how that evolves across 3 books. And finished that. I'm currently starting Differently Morphous, which is a comedy magic kind of thing by Yahtzee Croshaw.
Gotcha. Yeah, Yahtzee.
Yeah, definitely with his kind of humor. He's also reading the audiobook himself.
Oh, I see. That's cool. Go ahead, Dreamcast.
I'm about to meet him in a couple weeks. I'm doing a convention with him. I'm so excited because I love his books, especially Mogworld. So I'm going to be like, could you please sign this book? Like, I know I'm a guest and I probably shouldn't ask you, but can you sign this for me?
Which event, by the way? Pimp that.
EGLX up in Canada. It's my first time going there. It's going to be in Toronto, October 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Very cool. You're doing a panel, by the way, it sounds like?
Yep, I'm doing a big panel on Saturday, and I'm planning on just hanging out because it sounds like there's going to be a lot of developers there, and I kind of like to sit in when developers just talk at panels because a lot of times they're a lot more like off the cuff and natural, despite the fact that there's a crowd there, and sometimes they say things that they wouldn't say in like an official interview. So I'm probably going to watch a bunch of those panels, just wander around, so that'll be fun.
Cool. And what's your panel? Do you know yet?
I'm just going to do a big Q&A because I haven't really done one of those very often. So those are fun because a lot of times people ask me about everything, and I get to just ramble about YouTube and all my stuff because I'm writing a book right now, and I've mentioned it a couple of videos. I'm writing a book about my life and going from literally living on the streets at 18 and being this like filthy kid with no teeth to now somehow a YouTuber with a private office. And so I'm writing that stupid book right now. But as for reading books, I'm reading 2 right now. I'm reading a biography called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. It's about a young woman who got a job at a crematorium, and it's really interesting because she's just basically like your stereotypical like goth girl, like, oh my God, this would be the coolest job. And then she gets it and she's like, yep, this is legit the coolest job. And so she's just talking about that. And I'm reading a bunch of Stephen King short stories lately. Stephen King short stories are way more terrifying than his normal books because he doesn't have to worry about obeying any rules. He's just like, what if a knife was flying around and stabbing people in the junk? It's like, oh my God. So I like that.
Very cool. And for me, I'm doing The Greatest Story Ever Told so far by Lawrence Krauss. This is the second time I've read it.
It's a good one. I read that.
Yeah, it is a good one, but Lawrence...
It's dense,
Lawrence has a tendency to be like, you're as smart as me sometimes, and you're all, no, Lawrence, we're not. And some of the shit he says, even when he's trying to explain it, like the one time he tried to explain it to Joe Rogan, and I'm pretty sure you can watch Joe Rogan phase out of existence for a moment. Yeah, loses. He's all, what? So that's
skip next one.
Just keep going, Joe. Just keep rolling. Pretend you know it, man. But I love his stuff.
I love watching Lawrence Krauss talk to people because you can see he gets frustrated. He assumes everybody, and I like seeing him get frustrated. There was a time where like he was trying to explain like the concept of curved reality, and he spends like 15 minutes explaining this person's like, but that doesn't make sense. And literally he went,
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't go more basic. So
we've had a big discussion about him and what's his name, Dawkins, and how, you know, when they get together, it's so funny because like they're both so intelligent. They have different ways of going after people who don't know what they're talking about and helping them. But at the same time, Lawrence especially, the one fucking video before we go, I gotta say, if you guys get a chance, check it out. Lawrence debates some philosophers. And never in my life have I met a bigger dickhead than myself. But that time, he's a jackass. And he's like, everything they say, it's a one-liner as he answers. So they'll say something, it'll be like, well, I mean, if everybody was incredibly stupid, this is what we would do. And you're just like, did he? What the fuck? But he does not stop. And pretty soon, you can see the philosophers are like, it's just getting worse and worse. He was a jerk, but it was absolutely awesome. If you guys get a chance, check it out, YouTube. It shouldn't be too hard to find. Lawrence Krauss debates philosophers, I think, would be close enough. That's it for us. Dreamcast guy, you got anything to pimp before we go? Any videos coming up?
I'm working on some stuff that's sort of horror related, but perhaps the project that I'm most incredibly excited about is I am going to try and do something all about the Fallout 76 beta when it starts on the 23rd. I'm going to try and be like first person on the server and really get some hands on. And I do a series called Does It Suck, where I look at games that aren't finished, like betas and alphas and stuff that I'm given access to. And I really want to dig into that in my Does It Suck series and kind of look at like, okay, we saw those previews. They kept saying that those were unfinished builds. I'm going to go at myself with an open mind as somebody who did like Fallout 3 and 4 and see if it sucks.
Very cool. What about you, Jonny? Got anything to pimp?
Yes, I'm currently streaming quite often now that I have good internet. So in addition to like the videos that I usually do over coffee and so on, and then maybe some music videos, I'll also be streaming games. Currently, AC Odyssey is what I'm playing. And just having a great time, and finally good quality in the stream. People can see what's going on, and my face as opposed to just like a bunch of pixels.
You motherfucker! You had potato cam for a while there. There were times where like
as you say, it was a dumpster fire.
It was a dumpster fire. That one time I was watching you, just going like, "Damn, son, you're streaming to people who have glaucoma or something," because I don't know how anybody could watch that shit. So it's very cool you got better internet. By the way, guys, in the Discord, you can always check out streams that people are doing. Me, I can't mind everything that I'm working on is NDA. So, no, wait. Yeah, I can say I'm doing Lego Villain, right? I just said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, today's 12th. Yes, Lego Villains. Yeah. I am reviewing that and doing some other stuff that I can't talk about. So that's it for us. I want to thank Dreamcast guy as always for coming. It's a blast. Thanks for informing us about Call of Duty and everything else. Thanks, Reg. Thanks, Jonny. By the way, GB and Silver couldn't make it. Silver was sick. GB and I thought we were trying to surprise Dreamcast guy by having another friend of his come on, but we didn't get it all set up, and it would have been too many people. So GB was nice enough to drop out, but we didn't get to invite him as we started this. So they are coming back. Don't worry. Nobody's been kicked off the channel. If anybody is, it would be me. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.